It's my first look at the quarterback position for week 15, and we're starting right now. Week 15, the quarterback position is going to be our first look, a true first look, as I was kind of mentioning before we jumped on here. If you're watching this on YouTube later, definitely come hang out with us on Twitch. We go through this every Tuesday at 2:30 Eastern time, or sorry, 1:30 Eastern time. We did move it back a little bit recently so more people could catch it on their commute home. So come hang out with us, twitch.tv/Joe Holka. Week 15 already, like I said before, there's definitely going to be a ton of content throughout postseason as well, but only a couple more big slates left of the regular season. But a lot of people probably coming over from season long. If their season long season is over, it's a great time to jump into DFS. So instant money, thanks for Twitch Prime, man. Really appreciate that. 5 months. Someone in the chat already is saying it's Kyler week. Let's start there. Kyler Murray, 5,600 on DraftKings, 7,600 on FanDuel. Okay. And by the way, this is a sheet that is available to all my Twitch subscribers. I do post it in the Discord. Really try and focus on the things that actually matter at each position. So Kyler Murray, yeah, I'm first glance, like the thing that I always kind of hate, and you guys hear me mention this every week, I feel like at quarterback, these guys that aren't willing to push the ball downfield, Derek Carr, Jimmy Garoppolo, Tom Brady, I would prefer a guy that's willing to push the ball downfield, but when it comes to Arizona, there's always just so many more plays involved in this game because of how pass heavy they are, how fast a pace this offense likes to run. So obviously you're going to get a nice rushing floor from Kyler Murray as well. 5,600. I like that quite a bit. I know he hasn't looked great. It was a tough matchup for them last week as well against Pittsburgh. Like this offensive line for Arizona is definitely concerned. So we could see that come into play again this week with Cleveland, who does the rest of the passer relatively well. But yeah, what I like about this is that Cleveland in general, they're very good against the deep ball, but they're definitely below average in terms of the short area of the field. So yeah, shout out Justin Rao, sharp call on Kyler. No, you know I like me some Kyler, man, for sure. We got It's Mookie in the chat, wants to know about Fitz. He said he's very cheap on FanDuel. Another guy, Ryan Fitzpatrick's a guy that you don't have to twist my arm too hard to get me on him. So Ryan Fitzpatrick, 7,300 on FanDuel. Yeah, man, I'm with you there. A team that over the last 3 weeks has been very pass happy. I can't even talk today. 65.4% of their offensive plays have been pass plays. So that's interesting. Obviously, a very strong matchup against the Giants. Height spread, I like that. Not the largest total in the world, but yeah, we know we can pass on the Giants, so I like that. Fitzpatrick, I mean, if you guys seen him over the last couple of weeks, this guy's like, he's like one of my favorite fantasy players ever, just because he's not scared to take on a defender, to run with the ball. Like last week, he had 65 yards on the ground. That's a way higher ceiling on the ground than I thought he had. But I mean, he has a 45-yard game, a 23-yard game. Like he's not scared to take off. Like, yeah, last week was against the Jets. This might be maybe a little bit different, but I mean, the Giants are a team that you can definitely take advantage of as well. So maybe this projection for rush yards might even be a little bit low for Fitzpatrick. So yeah, Mookie, I'm with you on that, man. I think FanDuel's in particular, FanDuel makes some sense for Fitzpatrick for sure. So we'll have to look a little bit deeper into that one as well. Let's see. Insta Money in the chat was saying, because of your rushing equity model, so rushing expectation, I was on CMC in all my season-long leagues, made it playoffs in 75% of my leagues. Awesome, man. Thanks, Insta Money. Yeah, I appreciate that, man. Yeah, CMC was a guy that my methodology just absolutely loved. So I was happy that I got a lot of people on him at the number 1 overall pick. So I'm glad you're one of them, man. That's awesome. God Drama. Hey, Joe. Hope you're well. UK. Yeah, what's up, man? We got a couple people that are watching from the UK. So that's awesome, man. Thanks for being here, man. Let's see. Tannehill, volume increase with Henry banged up. That could be. Downer in the chat's asking about Tannehill. So let's take a look at him next. So yeah, over the last 4 games, they're a team that's been extremely run heavy. We know that. That was part of the reason we had some concerns for Tannehill last week, was just he hasn't been throwing the ball a ton. So Tannehill in general did throw the ball a little bit more in week 14. Still not crazy volume by any means, but threw the ball 27 times last week. It's just insane how efficient this guy has been. Like, for a little bit of comparison here, 14.5 yards per attempt last week. His average intended air yards, obviously very strong as well. Right up here with some of these guys that we know are going to push the ball downfield. Jameis Winston, Russell Wilson, Dak Prescott, Ryan Fitzpatrick, these guys. So Yeah, I mean, I can get behind Ryan Tannehill. I think that probably need to see a little bit more news on this injury with Henry before we get too excited about it. But this Houston spot, like, I mean, at home, nice total. Um, Houston's a team that is a lot better against the deep pass, so that's good to know. But yeah, these guys that'll give us at least a little bit on the ground, I'm always going to have some interest in them for sure. And the price tag isn't too bad on Tannehill, 6,500 on DraftKings. That's a little bit scary, but I think 7,600 is still pretty reasonable on FanDuel for sure. Um, yeah, I could get behind some Tannehill. We'll have to kind of look a little bit deeper, see what AJ Brown's price is and stuff like that too. Compare him with. It's Glenn wants to know about Minshew. Oh, Minshew. 5,500. I have such a soft spot for Minshew because I think we played him a couple weeks earlier in the season when he was really cheap as well, and he got it done for us. So 6,900 on FanDuel. Nice. 5,500 on DraftKings. Yeah, this team's throwing a lot more. I know that Nick Foles kind of is a part of this sample as well, but 67.2% pass rate over the last 3 games is significant. We know Oakland is a team that we've been trying to target. It's always a little bit tougher with these lower totals, but they are on the road, so take that for what it's worth. A little bit of running on the ground. What did Minshew have on the ground last week? Take a peek back. So Minshew had 31 yards on the ground last week against the Chargers, which is interesting because like the Chargers are a team that like historically has been pretty decent at defending running quarterbacks. So that's interesting. He threw the ball 37 times last week. Like I get it, he only threw for 162 yards, 1 touchdown. But yeah, I don't hate Minshew at that price. I'm always trying to look for these like really cheap quarterbacks, right? Because it's a position where you can gain so much value and just gain savings, obviously, to pay up for your other positions as well. So yeah, I'm interested in that. He's like the only guy down here that has a little bit of rushing equity. I mean, on DraftKings, I strongly prefer Kyler, but on FanDuel, 6,900 does a lot for your roster. Must be nice to have the first pick in every league. Yeah, no kidding. I didn't even realize that. That's crazy. Yeah, hopefully people got on CMC. Jimmy G, back at home. Look at a couple of those guys. Yeah, Tannehill has been efficient, for sure. Everyone's loving them some Jimmy G. Super Freak. Shout out Super Freak in the chat. All right, we'll take a look at Jimmy G. Not a huge Jimmy G guy overall in terms of fantasy, but I'm willing to take a look for you guys. For you guys, anything. 6,100 on DraftKings, 8,400 on FanDuel. Against Atlanta. Nice team total there. Highest team total on the slate. Double-digit favorite. Okay, so I mean, a guy that doesn't want to push the ball downfield, at least it's a good matchup for that. Short area of the field is kind of where you attack Atlanta, similar to why we would be attacking Atlanta with pass-catching running backs. So yeah, on FanDuel, there's no chance I'm playing him on FanDuel at that price. On DraftKings, 6,100, that's a very big discrepancy. So maybe he's more in play on DraftKings, like something we talked about last week too, and or at least for the review for this past week is these packet. I really can't talk today. Pocket passers that are a little bit cheaper on DraftKings. Someone like Derek Carr last week, Drew Brees, like those guys. I would prefer not to play those guys in like a single entry or small field. You guys know those are the tournaments that I'm typically attacking. But yeah, maybe Jimmy G with that total is something we should be paying attention to. Like same thing with Breeze last week at home. So I'm open to it. I'm open to exploring it. Is that good enough, guys? Like I really like these guys scare me, but I'm open to looking at it further. It's the best I can do. Let's see. Will Baker get right against the Cardinal? He's scrambling a little more lately too. Let's take a look at Baker. I think that Baker, depending on his price, could make some sense. Definitely make some sense, especially in the matchup against Arizona. I could see that being one that would make some sense to go to. Not seeing him on my sheet right away, so I might have to take a look at that one later in the week. But for whatever reason, like we know we've been targeting quarterbacks against Arizona most of the season. So they are on the road, so I'd imagine their total is not very high, but condensed target share there would certainly be something that we would be looking at. If anyone wants to throw in the chat, I'll just look at it. Baker's 6,400 on DraftKings. It seems a little expensive. 77 on FanDuel, so he's definitely not a bargain. It's priced into that matchup a little bit. My first instincts are that he's too expensive, but we'll see where we get. Eli at 5,200. We've made it all the way through about what, 5 or 6 guys now, and no one's brought up Eli. Oh man, Eli Manning, 5,200 on DraftKings, 6,800 on FanDuel against Miami. We've been attacking these Miami games on the other side for quite a while now. Anyone stomach Eli this week? I know, like, he looked all right last week, or at least yesterday, on Monday Night Football. Price is all right. I mean, can we justify paying $5,200 for Eli when we just play Kyler Murray at $5,600? I don't know. I don't know if I can stomach that. But what I can say about Eli is I think that it does help out Saquon a little bit. I know Saquon didn't have a fantastic game by any means last night, and we're going to see that since the Giants are not a great team. But against Miami, Eli's just going to check the ball down. Ideally, that's what he wants to do, right? I know he pushed the ball downfield a little bit last week, but maybe that just helps Saquon a little. Murray just seems too cheap on DK against the Browns. I'm with EJ Rogers. I think that's something that we have to consider. That's the standout price point for me so far, is Kyler Murray. I guess what scares me still is that Cleveland does rush the passer relatively well. It's Glenn. Thanks for your 100 bits, man. Appreciate that. He says, I love the content for those of you watching on YouTube later. So what else, guys? Deshaun Watson, 6,800 against Tennessee. That's kind of interesting. I think that Houston-Tennessee game is one that'll draw some interest for sure. See it? What else? Actually, Eli is popping as a decent value. So as far as like values, I think Eli, Kyler are the ones that the field are kind of be talking about as the week progresses here. How do we feel about Russell Wilson at 7K against Carolina? Really nice team total. So like Patrick Mahomes versus Russell Wilson right now, basically the same price. At least Patrick Mahomes is at home. I don't know. I think that both of those guys make some sense. Like these high totals, incredibly important at the quarterback position. So at the high end, like of course, like ideally I would prefer to pay down in smaller field stuff, but in large field stuff, I think that paying up for some of these type of stacks, KC, Seattle stacks would be decent, especially with Vegas. Seems like all over them scoring a decent amount of points. Both these guys are definitely among the elite in the league. No question about that. See both those guys gaining popularity. I think I still prefer Deshaun Watson. I don't know if that's a hot take or anything like that, but I think in terms of ceiling, maybe Russell Wilson, Patrick Mahomes, better ceiling. In terms of floor, I guess I love Deshaun Watson. You see what he did last week, 2 rushing touchdowns. I guess I prefer that. Wilson is interesting. Yeah, I'm with you on that, Miss. Not sure if we discussed, but Goff perhaps too. All right, let's take a look at Goff. 6,100 against Dallas. Okay. Yeah, and someone mentioned Dak before too, so we'll kind of rope Dak into this. Nice total. I like the fact that it's such a tight spread. Maybe this game goes back and forth a little bit. My first instinct is Dak at 6,300 would be my lean over Goff. You guys have heard me talk about this before. I'm not a big fan of playing Goff on the road. He's someone that really needs to kind of get those progressions simplified by being able to hear his coaches before. So that hurts him on the road quite a bit, I think. But that's a pretty nice total for on the road. Yeah, we'll have to work with that a little bit. My initial feel is that I still would prefer Dak at 100 more. Let's see. Carolina looked like they were playing dead last week. Seattle has been content with running the ball. That's true, man. That's always the concern with Russell Wilson is that they're just going to run the ball a decent amount. Cowboys are a mess right now. Yeah, that's very true. They haven't looked great. That's for sure. Someone in the chat was asking if stacking is overrated, and Misk has kind of been coming to my aid a little bit here. I don't think it's overrated at all. I think that if anything, the benefit of stacking is correlation, yes, but also the fact that you can kind of limit your decision making in some ways. And what I mean by that is, like in the week where people are playing Baker with OBJ and Landry, bringing it back with someone on Miami. What it does by playing OBJ and Landry is you don't have to pick the touchdown at that point. It didn't matter that Landry went nuts. Like OBJ still had a decent game. You get the touchdowns from both on a really kind of condensed target share situation. If you have to pick one of them, maybe you picked OBJ and then you don't get any of those touchdowns correlated with your quarterback. So it limits your, like if for Baker to go off, you want to have the pieces that are with him to kind of limit your downside a little bit there, I think. And if he doesn't go off, you're probably not going to do much in a tournament anyway. So bringing it back on the other side, I think, is a case-by-case situation. There's been situations where in that same week, we're bringing it back with like Gesicki on the other side just to take care of the tight end position with more correlation is something that I like to do. And I mentioned this on the review streams a decent amount. And if anyone hasn't checked out the review stream from this week, definitely go through that video as well after you finish this one. But I think that correlating with the main stack, but also a little mini stack, is something you're seeing some of the best tournament players do. So what I mean by that is, well, same example, say you have a Cleveland stack with Gesicki on the other side. Again, I'm just making this up. This was a couple weeks ago. You might want to have a stack, like, for example, if we're kind of looking a little bit ahead here, or we don't even have to look ahead, and we'll say maybe you have like a Robert Woods on LA with Ezekiel Elliott, something like that. Just a mini game stack in addition to your main stack is something that I do like to do. If you want to learn more about how to be a profitable DFS player and how to get better at betting, start now by hitting the subscribe icon in the bottom right-hand corner so you don't miss anything. If you want to take your game to that next level, make sure you're hanging out with us live on Twitch next time. Twitch.tv/Joe Holka. We'll see you there.